does a similar thing. Is just like this basic principle of following the path of least resistance. And for me, I would way rather, when I start seeing aphid pressure, I would way rather just stop growing that crop for that time of the year and let it run its course and then start it again later in the season than fight it.
Yeah.
Many people do. All the California growers, they grow it all summer, but they're spraying if they're organic, they're spraying biopesticides, which are expensive, and they're not necessarily good for you either. Just because something's organic doesn't mean you can drink a bottle of it and you'll be okay. So I would rather just not fight it.
Have you considered growing like a cover crop to kind of attract aphids away from your other plants?
Doesn't really work.
No?
I mean, you have trap crops, but it's usually something that you're trying to grow that everything's migrating to, and it's we call it a sacrificial crop.
Yeah.
But because they'll hang out there, but
they'll just. I've seen that done because in theory it sounds really good. It sounds like, oh, this is the solution to not have pest problems, but what happens with those is just there's more of that pest that populates, because if you might have a distraction crop that's an abundant food source for them, and then they just populate more, and then they still eat your crop. Like I've never seen that work commercially. Yeah. Like I've seen it work on small like homestead type farm gardens, but on this type of production where we're talking 100-foot beds and blocks, it's highly unlikely that that's going to work successfully.
Right, no matter what, your bugs become your end consumer.
Pretty much. Yep.
For us, as far as the tipping point of is it worth it anymore, like when you start getting buggy, I have my team trained to always be doing time audits in their head from the harvest, if it's quality and they're having to take so much more time harvesting or washing, and then just add labor, $20 an hour or something like that to it. What can we sell it for? So we got X amount of pounds per hour, we sell it for this, and so it's just quick, rough math, but it helps us to identify when it's time to let it go.
Yeah. It's always a good thing to put that in your crew's head. Is normally this is taking you this long and you're flowing, and then like I have that too. I have Mark, who's my full-time guy, and then I have a part-time person throughout the season, the main season, and I'll say to them, hey, if this is all of a sudden taking you longer, I want to know. And so that's when you kind of put things under the microscope further. We were doing bagged carrots for a couple of years, and then Toby, my apprentice last year, he said, these are taking way too long. And so that's when we analyzed it and said, okay, well, we need to do this differently. Because if you're not directly involved in the day-to-day of your farm, somebody is. And you're going to lose touch with what's going on, and all of a sudden you've been doing something that's inefficient for 3 months. Well, all of a sudden you don't notice it in real time, right? Because you get paid later and you assess your costs later. So all of a sudden 3 months went by and you're like, geez, we lost our profit margin in those 3 months. You could have noticed it if you had somebody telling you that. And so it's really good to have a open communication with your crew to always know what's going on if you're not directly involved yourself.
But we have a lot of ground squirrels, gophers, rats, and when we pull back those tarps, you'll see like gopher holes where they all of a sudden they're getting lazy, and so all their tunnels are like right on the surface because of the tarp is the top. But we'll pull those back and they'll go scurrying and chew up drip lines. I mean, it's just kind of the world we live in.
Yeah. And you got to put time aside for that. Farmer I know, Singing Frogs Farm up in Northern California, they have one person who dedicated 1 day a week to trapping and killing pests.
Yeah.
So, he got to a point where there was so much crop damage that he was like, this is like 20% of our overall yield, where he said, well, I'm better off budgeting somebody, even if that costs me, say $100 to $200 for that day, 1 day a week, I'm better off doing that and then mitigating the damage. So it's just management. Yeah. You got to put the time in, get the infrastructure in place, and just be proactive with it than reactive.
Yeah, we snap traps for gophers, and that's not a perfect system either, but we get them eventually. If you look at the end of these beds, see how there's nothing at the end for like the last 15 feet or so. We had rabbits that come out of the trees there this time of year when it gets warmer, and they were like nipping, and they had got all the flowers into those insect nets, and so she was freaking out, so we put those over it. So then they just moved over here and ate all this. So
We're different. I mean, our seasons are very different than most everywhere else.
So we look at our field blocks as it's a crop for a season, and our successions happen within that block. So this is a Salanova block, and so we started and we were moving down, and we plant, and then we'll start over, and we'll move down, and then when we transition to like our warm weather crops, we'll still be growing Salanova, but we'll move that to another place.
Yeah.
And same thing. If there's certain things that are more susceptible to like pest pressure and that, like our cut greens that we get a little bit more insect pressure if we plant those, we move those around more often. But something like Salanova that's like super light feeder and that, we can just keep doing that, you know, for that whole season, because our seasons are so long. It's just the timing just
And
for
then
us
when
would-
is aphid pressure heaviest on the Salanova? This time of year?
when it starts warming up, yeah.
Okay, so would that mean that later in the summer when aphid pressure gets really heavy, you might not plant Salanova in the same bed twice?
Yeah, when we're transitioning to those warm weather, then we're gonna have a
You're
new
gonna-
block
yeah.
for that,
Okay.
and then we'll probably start covering and that sort of thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, you can get like so cross-eyed with crop plans and rotations and that sort of thing. And so, for me, we want to have like the key principles of heavy feeders and light feeders and that, but we also need to make it as simple as possible, because you make a plan, but things happen and you're changing anyway. So if you have a very complicated plan to start with, then it's like a
Once you mix in
disaster.
all the other variables, it's
Yeah.
even more complicated.
So-
This certainly, from a logistical perspective, makes things way easier. Just
Yeah.
to say, for the winter season, this block of Salanova certainly makes things simpler.
Yeah, I mean, this was a garlic block last season.
Oh, okay.
So we're following a heavy feeder with a light feeder and that sort of thing. So we're still following all those same principles in that. So kale was over where the carrots were again, you know, that sort of thing. So we're still thinking that through, but we can get away with this. So yeah, just simple is better. All right.